but we are going to make it more interesting. We have Dhaiwat Pandya, who's going to be the keynote speaker from Developer DAO. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please clap out loud and let's welcome Dhaiwat. Let's start your session and let's get this going. So everybody, one more time, give it up for Dhaiwat Pandya. Come on, come on, come on. Can we hear for him?
Cool. So I guess today we'll talk about, I don't think you can really see it, but the state of Web3 front ends. I know it's like a very niche topic, but honestly, this is all I know about Web3, so that's what I'm going to share. Okay, so let's get the formalities out of the way. This is me. I'm Dhaiwat. I'm from Developer DAO. Developer DAO is a community of devs. We are focused on onboarding devs into Web3, educating people about Web3, and building open source software. I also work as a DevRel at Anchor. Before this, I was an engineer, so that's kind of my background. And I like to learn, build, and teach. That's kind of how I see myself. So yeah, let's get on with it. We are mostly going to talk about front ends, but for Web3 apps, for dApps, and our smart contracts are decentralized. I think most of the talks at this conference have been focused on different protocols, the smart contracts, and how we can make them more decentralized, how we can scale blockchains and everything. But the actual interface for dApps is the websites that you use. So if you have used like a decentralized exchange like Uniswap or something like Binance is not really a dApp, but like you get the point. That's what we are going to focus on because the smart contracts are decentralized, they're permissionless and open as long as you're building on a real blockchain and not Solana. But what about the front ends? They are not decentralized. Recently we saw what happened with Tornado.cash. Their website got taken down, that GitHub got taken down, everything went down just because some people didn't like what they were doing. Some really powerful people, of course. But isn't that exactly what we are trying to avoid with blockchains? I mean, all we talk about is having permissionless networks, having decentralized networks that can never get taken down, apps that work without anyone's permission. But just like that, it can all go down. People cannot use that anymore unless like you are a degen who likes to interact with smart contracts on Etherscan, which is not something I like to do. So this is something that shouldn't be happening, but that's the case right now. Most people use centralized hosting like AWS and Vercel, and if the Fed doesn't like you, they can take down your stuff just with like a single click. Which is not good. This is the infrastructure that we use right now for most Web3 apps. And I don't blame people. I don't blame people because the user experience that you get out of using centralized providers like AWS or Vercel, it's just so easy to use. Most apps don't really need fully decentralized front ends. No one's really going to, honestly, no one's going to care about most of your apps. But in cases like Tornado.cash, Uniswap, like big decentralized protocols like that, I've heard this from someone that decentralization isn't necessary until it is. Like you don't really need it until you get taken down. And this is not good. This is bad because whenever you type, let's say you type uniswap.org, I know they don't use Vercel, they have it figured out, but let's say you type an address for a dApp like that. The first thing that happens is the request goes through whatever hosting that you are using. It can be Vercel, it can be AWS, but it's a centralized entity. Even though the UI interacts with smart contracts, the front end is being served from Vercel or AWS, which is a centralized company, mostly based in the US, and if the US government doesn't like you, your stuff will get taken down, just like that. And like we saw recently, they are puppets. They are not your friends, and they can like just stop users from interacting with your apps just like that, because they control that. You don't have any control over that. And this is a really nice tweet that I liked from last week. Now we are at this stage where we have to fight bureaucracy, we have to fight governments because stuff is starting to be taken down. Tornado.cash. So a dev even got arrested just for writing some open source code. I think now is the time where we actually start taking all of this seriously. When we say that we want to make our dApps decentralized, we need to actually mean that. And decentralization is no more about having a privilege. It's no more about, it's not a nice thing to have. It's not just like something that's nice to have. It's something you need to survive. Tornado.cash needs a decentralized front end to survive. They won't survive if they just use AWS and Vercel because it can get taken down. And how that can be avoided, this is the ideal Web3 front end, something that's resilient, something that's actually consistent with Web3's values that we all talk about. I'm going to go over all of them one by one and what I mean. I've actually been thinking about this for the last 3 or 4 months, and this is kind of what I have come up with so far. First of all, it has to be permanent. It cannot be something that can change over time. It shouldn't be like, this is also important for security reasons because recently, of course, there have been lots of phishing attacks on front ends in Web3 where people, someone takes over someone's DNS, and even though you are interacting with the current, the correct address, let's say you are interacting with uniswap.org, but the DNS got hacked, you are interacting with malicious code. So this is very important. It has to be permanent for security as well, but also for censorship resistance. Once you deploy it, it should never be taken down. No one should be able to say that I don't like this, so this should be taken down, especially the governments. And that's what's starting to happen at a much faster pace right now. The second thing, it has to be decentralized. Again, there shouldn't be any single point of failure. There should be copies of it stored in multiple places around the world by different node providers on the network. Again, it's the same thing over and over again, that it shouldn't have like one single party having a say on whether your stuff stays up or not. I will get to the network I'm talking about in this case, but for example, we have Arweave, IPFS, Filecoin. They do a good job on making sure that your website is actually stored in multiple places. Okay, I need to go back. Okay, so the third point, it has to be open. Anyone should be able to access it. It shouldn't be able to be blocked by Vercel or AWS. I know, like, I'm putting bad words about Vercel. They haven't really done anything bad, but they are just the first thing that come to my mouth about centralized providers, because that's what I use. But anyone should be able to access the website regardless of who they are or where they are from. Just because I'm from India, just because I'm from the US, I shouldn't be blocked from viewing some content. The content shouldn't care about where I am from. It shouldn't care about who I am. And the code should be open source. And this is extremely important, and this is something people have actually done after Tornado.cash happened. If you don't know what the entire Tornado.cash incident is, definitely look into it. It's insane. I think you just have to read it. We don't have time to go over all of it, but they actually had the code for the front end open source, so people actually forked the repo and hosted it themselves on IPFS and other platforms. So it was actually not completely taken down, even though their actual domain was taken down. A copy of the site was always up. So yeah, that's the point. It has to be open. It has to be self-hostable. It has to be secure. This is something I know Spheron, which is an Indian company, they are working on. But cryptographically verifiable deployments, this is something that's very tricky to achieve. But I've seen a demo of what they are doing. And Basically, the idea with this is that you want to know who actually wrote the code that's being run in your browser. There shouldn't be anything running on a server behind the scenes, because you can't tell what's running on a server. You can't tell what source code it's running. You don't know. It's a black box, so everything should run in the browser. All the deployments should be cryptographically verifiable. So what I mean by that is when you open, let's say, uniswap.org, maybe you should see that this was actually deployed by uniswap.eth and signed by their private key. At the last point, it should be permissionless. I shouldn't have to ask for anyone's permission to access it, which kind of goes over all the first 4 points that we talked about. And I think, and this is just my theory, if a front end can achieve all 5 of these points, it's pretty resilient. It's way better than what most people have right now. So now, how do you actually achieve that? Where do you actually store your front end if not on Vercel or AWS? Well, we have Arweave. I'm going to talk about Arweave and what it does. So Arweave lets you store, by the way, I was not paid for this, I just really like what they do. Arweave lets you store data permanently, and when they mean permanently, they actually mean it. They have their entire algorithm. You can read their entire white paper, but it will stay up permanently on their network. You just have to pay a fee once when you want to deploy something, and yeah, it will always stay alive forever. And this is what they like to call it. They like to call it the permaweb, and which is like the interface between the Arweave network and your users. I'll explain this a little bit more. So the Arweave network, you can just think of it like a blockchain. It's kind of similar to IPFS. I don't want to say it's similar, but it's similar in the way that it's a network that stores content. It has hashes that point to content. So when you deploy something, it will get picked up by a node on the network, and you'll get a hash back that you can always use to access your content. Now the permaweb, that's the most important thing in Arweave. Like I said, everything on Arweave is permanent, so once I deploy something, it's always going to stay there. It can never get taken down. And how this is different from IPFS, if you have done any NFT projects as a dev, you'd already know that when you deploy something on IPFS, you have to pin it. It doesn't stay up forever. Like, you have to constantly, I think, pay for it, and that's where Arweave is different. You just pay a fee once, and it stays up, I think, for like 200 or 300 years at least. So it will, that's a decently long time period. Now, I'll link to these slides later on, but this is just explaining how Arweave actually stores everything permanently for 200 plus years. And it just like, they have this insanely interesting algorithm that calculates how your purchasing power goes up faster than you spend. They call it, I think they like to call it years of storage endowment. If you read their white paper, they explain everything. I was actually planning on showing you a demo right here, but unfortunately I wasn't able to connect my laptop. This is like a link to a front end I actually deployed on Arweave. Anything after this is the hash of my deployment. This is something that anyone can use to access the website that I deployed. Of course, you can't, like, that's too long for you to type out, but this is like a public gateway. If you have used IPFS, you might be aware of like having to use gateways like IPFS.infura or Pinata Cloud. This is something like that. This is the official gateway provided by Arweave. This can get taken down. Arweave.not can get taken down. If, like, for some reason they have, the government has a problem with Arweave and they get sued, that domain can get taken down. But anyone who has a copy of the Arweave network, anyone who's running a node or has access to a node, can always access whatever is on that hash. And that cannot be stopped. You can stop a public gateway, but you cannot stop someone from accessing a CID. And I think that's really powerful. I guess I'd love to show you a demo. Like I said, that was my plan, but I wasn't able to connect my laptop. So this is basically what I wanted to cover about like deploying a permanent front ends to Arweave. I'll link to these slides later on Twitter. You can find it on my Twitter. Yeah, please, if you can open it, let's see it. So yeah, that's an actual front end hosted on Arweave. Can you show the address bar? So yeah, it's stored on Arweave. You can see like it's a gateway. So once you click on that link, it actually changes. But anyone who has access to that hash can access it using a gateway of their choice. This is just like a connect wallet button, nothing else. But the point is that this can be anything. This can be a copy of Uniswap. This can be a copy of your own DApp, which is stored permanently on Arweave that can never be taken down, regardless of who's trying to take it down. As long as there's a node of Arweave running anywhere around the world, this will never be taken down. And I think that's super powerful. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in regards to front ends. I'm just going to briefly talk about Developer DAO now, because I'm from Developer DAO, and Developer DAO basically helped me become a Web3 dev, and I think everyone deserves to know about them. So Developer DAO, we are a community of Web3 devs who are trying to build a better future for the internet. I know that's very vague, but let's get into a little bit more details. So our mission is to accelerate the education and impact of a new wave of Web3 builders. What we do is we onboard them, we support them through our people in our DAO. We have lots of mentors, we educate them, we have regular educational events. We build Web3 tools, we have lots of open source projects going on, lots of projects that are already being used by the community. And I would say our focus is free and open source education. And we have, I'm sure like if you're active on Twitter, you must have seen tweets like these showing up your entire timeline, that Developer DAO has changed so many lives. It's just amazing how much impact we have been able to make in less than a year. We were actually formed last year in September. We just started out with like a buggy smart contract. Our smart contract actually has a bug, the actual NFT, but we have never looked back. We have continued to grow our community. We have always stayed true to our values, or at least tried to. And we are opening a new path to our membership soon, in a week or two. So I know a lot of people are trying to get access to Developer DAO through the NFT, and the NFT is expensive. It was free when it launched, but it's very expensive now on the secondary market. That's changing soon. We'll have our own governance token coming out soon, that people can work on Developer DAO's bounties, get the governance token, and just earn your way into the DAO. And I'm super excited about that. This is me on Twitter. If you have anything, if you want to talk about Developer DAO, or if you want to talk about what I talked about with regard to front ends, or just want to say hi, this is my Twitter. And yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.